Welcome back to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. And the Department of Justice, they have a new director of the Family Division. She is Abigail Layton, and she joins us here today. Thank you so much for coming in. You're with the Family Division, and I was just telling you that you are going to be overseeing some of the most heartbreaking cases.
That's true. I mean, obviously when you're dealing with child abuse and neglect and juvenile delinquency, there really are no winners. These tough cases that we handle every single day.
Is the prosecution of those cases all you're going to be doing, or is there an outreach program in prevention?
Obviously, we want to do both things. One of our goals is to make sure that kids are being rehabilitated who are in the system so that they aren't coming back again. And part of our job is also to go out and reach out to people and talk about what we can do to prevent things like bullying in the schools, prevent abuse and neglect, and to keep kids from being back in the system.
And how do you go about that? Let's start with bullying in the schools. It's a very difficult thing to go after. It almost seems sometimes that the bullying, even though you're talking about bullying in the schools, extends way into the night on social media.
Sure.
And are the two connected? Can you control one without controlling the other?
If I could control it.
You understand what I mean?
Yep, I do. I think they are interrelated, and so part of what we really need to do is teach kids about being safe on the internet and how best to use social media so that these kinds of things don't happen out of school. We work within the schools with the school resources officers and the administration to try to put programs in place to educate kids and parents about how best to handle social media and bullying in the schools.
And when we talk about juvenile crimes, there seems to be a new push in the country and in a positive direction to not incarcerate. Is that always possible, and is it always the best way? There are cases where somebody should be put away, right?
The idea of family court really is a rehabilitative court. So kids come in having committed a crime, and the idea is that we find programs and placements so that when they go home, they're going home to a family or a situation where they can use the skills they've learned and not come back into court. Unfortunately, there are kids that, despite whatever resources are given, still commit violent crimes and still have to be held responsible, and incarceration is the only thing that will hold them accountable for what they've done.
And so, just in your answer, wouldn't you be able to say that rehabilitation has not worked, or are there more positive examples than bad examples?
I think there are more positive examples. I think we need to keep looking and figuring out what best fits the kids in our community today. When
you're in charge of the Family Division, that you necessarily have to be involved with everybody else because, for instance, in the drug enforcement, the heroin epidemic is probably a major part of the problem you're facing.
It is. Kids end up abused and neglected when their parents or guardians aren't around because of an addiction, something that keeps them distracted and out of the home. So we obviously work with all of the stakeholders in this to figure out a best way to create good family community environments for these kids.
I understand you're an attorney and not a sociologist, but I'm going to ask a question about the ages of some of the people that commit some horrendous crimes in Wilmington. When you see these arrests of 12 and 13-year-olds who are carrying automatic weapons and are shooting up the streets, are you able to, in the Department of Justice, get involved earlier to prevent that?
We try to get involved very early on where kids are in homes where they're unsafe, where they've been abused and neglected. The idea always is to early intervention will help later on. Sometimes it doesn't help, sometimes it doesn't work.
But so that you believe in almost all cases or most cases is the core root to the problem?
There are a number of problems, but what we really try to do is make sure that we've given kids the best opportunities we can, including keeping them in safe environments and giving them things outside of school that are productive with their time.
The Attorney General, Matt Dent, has done a great job in coming in and doing in mass arrests of gang members in Wilmington, and many of them are that age. Can you really rehabilitate them?
I think they first need to be held accountable for their criminal actions, and then we need to think long-term about what we do for people who've been incarcerated and how we reintroduce them into society so that they can be rehabilitated.
And is that how you make the decision, because the decision has to be made? Is that how you make the decision whether to try as an adult, whether they can be rehabilitated or not?
Well, generally there are court rules that define who is tried as an adult versus who's tried as a child, and it depends on your
You push
crimes.
for that, though, right, in certain cases, don't you?
In certain cases, yes.
Is that part of that equation, whether you believe they can be rehabilitated, or is just the crime?
part of what's looked at is what services have been made available to this child in family court if they've already been through the system. So there's a number of factors that we look at along with the statutory guidelines to make that decision.
Since you have this new position, I want to also end it on a positive note. What do you see as your positive effect going forward? Is there an issue that you want to key on?
The earlier you intervene in these cases and work very hard to find a particular program, the better off these kids are in the end. So that's our goal, to act swiftly.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Abigail Layton is the new director for the Department of Justice Family Division. A tough job. When we come back, Habitat for Humanity in Delaware is looking for volunteers, specifically you, and I can tell you what's in it for you when we come right back.